We recently took the family to Costa Rica for a month, and I wasn't about to stop baking for that long just because I wasn't in my home kitchen. Baker's gonna bake. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made these tropical fruit Danish with rough puff pastry, with ingredients I found locally and using only the kitchen tools that were available in the house we stayed at. The recipe is in the description below. And stay tuned until the end. I'll show you a bonus dessert you can make with the leftover pastry and fillings. One of the first things I did when we came here was to visit a local farmer's market and stock up on some fresh tropical fruits. To be honest, I had no idea what these were when I bought them, but later learned they're a type of passion fruit which I had never baked with before. They look so strange on the inside. I think the best thing to make out of these would be a curd to use as one of the fillings in the Danish. Apparently the seeds are edible, but I want my curd smooth. This is the closest thing there was to a strainer in this kitchen, so I'm just gonna go with it. What I'm left with is some delicious passion fruit juice, which I'll add to my curd in a minute. To make the curd, in a small saucepan add the egg yolks and sugar and whisk them thoroughly. Then stream in the passion fruit juice, whisk again, and bring it over to the stove. On medium-low heat, stir constantly with a heat-safe spatula until it thickens and coats the back of a spoon. This should take 5 to 10 minutes. Take it off the heat, then strain it through the next closest thing to a strainer I could find to remove any accidentally cooked egg bits. While the curd is still warm, drop in small pieces of the butter and stir until melted and combined. Press a piece of plastic wrap directly on the surface to prevent a skin from forming and refrigerate for at least 2 hours before using. Next, we'll make the rough puff pastry, and because there are no measuring cups here, we'll just use this small coffee mug, which looks about the same as 1 cup, which will work just fine because we're making 3-2-1 pastry, for which you simply need 3 parts flour, 2 parts butter, 1 part ice water, and some salt. Whisk the salt into the flour, then drop in some very cold butter cut into pieces. Toss the butter until it's all covered with flour, then squish all of the butter pieces flat while realizing the bowl you chose to do this is far too small for the task, but deciding you'll just push through and clean the mess up later. Using the same mug, measure out some ice water while being careful not to let any ice in. Damn it! Fish out any errant ice cubes, then pour the water over the flour and butter mixture. Toss with your fingertips to start hydrating the flour, then tip it all out onto a well-floured surface. Gently knead it a few times until it comes together. With your hands, pat the dough into a roughly square shape about 1/2 inch thick, before folding it into quarters, which is sort of like laminating a traditional puff pastry and is how we'll get lots of buttery and flaky layers. Press out and fold one more time. If at any time your butter is starting to get too warm and melty, especially if you're making it in a hot climate like I am, pop it into the fridge or freezer for a few minutes until the butter firms up again. We don't want it to melt and combine with the flour. After 2 folds, wrap the dough up completely in plastic wrap and let it rest in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. We'll do 2 more folds, but this time using the closest thing I could find to a rolling pin. Keep flouring the surface and moving the dough around to make sure it doesn't stick. Wrap it up and rest the dough in the fridge one last time, this time for at least 1 hour and up to a couple days. While the dough chills in the fridge, we'll make our other filling, a delicious cream cheese filling I thought would be amazing with the passion fruit curd. No need to be too fussy with the measurements, just take a regular sized package of room temperature cream cheese, then keep adding powdered sugar a little bit at a time until it tastes as sweet as you like it. Then add a splash of vanilla extract. I always measure vanilla with my heart, not with a measuring spoon, and a whole room temperature egg. Whisk with a fork until smooth and refrigerate until ready to use. On a lightly floured surface, roll out the dough. Keep flouring the surface and moving it around to ensure nothing sticks. I cut my dough in half partway through and refrigerated one half because it turns out it's a bit difficult to roll a large piece of dough with a wine bottle. Continue rolling the dough into a rectangle about 1/4 inch thick. Trim the sides with a sharp knife, then cut it into squares of whatever size you like. If you're working in a hot kitchen, store all but 1 or 2 squares in the fridge while you shape just 1 or 2 at a time. To shape each Danish, lightly stretch each piece to even it out into a square, fold it in half diagonally, and cut along each side, stopping about 1 inch before the corner. Fold each flap to the opposite corner and place it on a parchment-lined baking sheet and refrigerate for at least 20 minutes before baking for maximum flakage. Fill the cavity of each pastry with some cream cheese filling. Then bake in a 350° Fahrenheit or 180° Celsius oven until full flakage has been achieved and the pastry is a light golden brown, about 20 to 30 minutes. While our Danish cool, let's make some glaze. There are no specific proportions here, just combine powdered sugar and milk and adjust by adding more milk or powdered sugar until it's either a consistency you like or you've used up all your milk and sugar and have a bucket full of glaze. After they've cooled completely, fill each Danish with some passionfruit curd. Then top with some chopped fresh fruit. Finally, drizzle some glaze on top of each Danish and enjoy. And there you have it, delightful and easy to make tropical fruit Danish. But wait, what about all those scraps and leftover fillings? Don't worry, I got you covered. Take your scrap dough and on a lightly floured surface, roll it out roughly into a circle about 1/4 inch thick. It'll be a little shaggier than the first time you rolled it out, and that's okay. Transfer it to a parchment-lined baking sheet and fill it with all of your leftover cream cheese filling, making sure to leave a border of about 2 inches all around. We're going to make this into a galette by folding the edge of the dough over the cream cheese, letting it crimp wherever it wants to. If your kitchen is warm, refrigerate it for at least 30 minutes before baking it at 350° Fahrenheit or 180° Celsius until the pastry is flaky and golden and the cream cheese filling has set, about 35 to 45 minutes. Allow your galette to cool completely before drizzling the rest of your passionfruit curd and sprinkling the rest of your chopped fresh fruit on top. If you have any leftover glaze, you can use that here too. Then slice and serve just like a pie. There you go, a delicious galette made from leftover pastry and fillings you already made. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.